What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo, a late night Psicoactivo, because this has to be made late at night because it is a sensitive topic. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been telling you guys that firsthand people, witnesses, are going to come forward. And I had information that at least two or three were potentially going to come forward. I don't know if you guys remember this video from Andy on that UFO podcast.
Your new client, is this someone we know already in the public sphere, or is this someone who's not come forward?
He's come forward. He's spoken with Burleson. Burleson called him a contractor. He's not a contractor. He's never been a government employee nor a government contractor. He's a person of, I believe, goodwill. He's a patriot. He's a business person. He is trying to, and he was trying to, over frankly many decades, figure out some things that an experience he had, and tried to approach the United States government when it became opportune to do so. Because remember, back decades ago, you came, if you had some information to give, they'd call you a UFO lunatic and ignore you. So there really wasn't much to be done. But he will tell his own story, and I think soon enough. He did come into contact with SSCI and a particular senator and AARO. He has, there's a lot of communications, right? There's a lot of emails and text messages that I've reviewed. And there certainly was meetings in SCIFs. And, he was just trying to essentially help the United States understand that this fantastic technology that they have is not as it's not as maybe secure as you think, or is not as they figured some things out, and so in trying to share this and maybe make a business venture of it, but it was Tim Phillips did a terrible thing. He said that he was trying to extort the United States government. I want to be very clear. It's absurd to even think that. And let me tell you why. When you get an email from a hacker who's, hacked your system, the hacker doesn't come to the FBI with its ransom note and says, "Hi, I'm just presenting myself to the FBI. Here's my note. I'd like, $10 million. I'm planning on going to Hawaii, overseas in 5 minutes." They'll arrest you right there. So the idea that somebody would present themselves and try to extort the United States government is absolutely logically crazy, and it makes no sense. So I'm sorry, that's bullshit. So it's a new guy. He's a good person of goodwill. I think he's still trying to work if he can. If the government wants, he'll certainly try to work with the American government and present what he knows. He's already presented quite a bit. Again, I can't qualify his technology or the information, and I've seen very frankly little other than the communications between him and his group and the Senate and AARO. But I will say it's substantial, and frankly, I think he has been the target, which people don't realize, of a lot of the comments by even Senator Rounds and certainly Tim Phillips and others. I think he is implicated. A lot of what they're saying resonates with some of the things he has going on. So, from my point, I think he's just a good American businessman who is trying to help. And and it shows you, if AARO treated him this way, who was just trying to say, "Look, I think I've made some discoveries. I don't know what this is, but I found out certain things that are have a lot of data behind them." I can only imagine what they did to people who don't have any means and are government employees and are just without representation and just feeling vulnerable. It's just horrible. So Tim Phillips. I don't know why he went on a campaign of podcasts, but certainly it's that stream of podcasts that seemed to have stopped or been put a stop to. And, he was doing a great job of telling a lot of things, and they put a muzzle on him, I guess.
Any time scales on when your client's going to come forward publicly?
I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks. I can't give an exact time frame, but I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks. You never can tell. Maybe if the government comes and works with him, then we'll never hear from him again. I don't know. But I think he's not a UFO guy. He's not an NHI guy. It's not that he's not open to that, but he's just a business person who has a science background along with the family background, and just really came across some very unusual things and has an incredible story to tell. I think that there's a lot of you might describe it as evidence to suggest that there's a lot of truth to it. And I'd like to thank Tim Phillips for helping corroborate some things inadvertently. So
okay, so let's see what Tim Phillips said. What he said was on Mick West's podcast, because he was a guest of Mick West's podcast. And let's see what he said. Yeah.
I was frustrated by some of the claims made by witnesses to members of Congress. I know that we had people referred to us. One particular individual, we thought he was extorting us. We were either going to pay him for his knowledge or his materials, or he was going to take it to a foreign country. It sounded like extortion to us, and reported it to our FBI counterparts. And by the way, we actually had at various times FBI agents or analysts who were part of the AARO staff. So we did work very, very closely with the FBI.
So this is what the accusation that Ivan Hannel, the lawyer that is also Lou Elizondo's lawyer, but he's not a lawyer to just Lou Elizondo. He's a lawyer to a lot of people that are trying to come forward with a lot of testimony about UFOs, NHI, even stuff that they don't think is UFOs, but they saw something. Ivan is helping a lot of these people. And one of these people is this client that he talked about. And in this clip, Tim Phillips is accusing the client. This is who he was referring to. And then Phillips also made like a media tour. He went on Stephen Greenstreet. He went with Martin Willis from Podcast UFO. He went with John Michael Gaudier on Event Horizon. He went on multiple. He went with Andy on that UFO podcast, and he said a bunch of things. He claimed that he surprised Stephen Greenstreet when he talked about the black triangles. And then he said that they even reported to him that one of these craft seemed like a Klingon death ship, something like that, he said. And this also has to do with Ivan's client, because essentially the claim that Ivan's client has, which he claims that it's firsthand, is that he saw in the fields of Wichita, Kansas, 20 plus years ago, before the Nimitz encounter, he claims to have seen a craft hovering less than 50 feet from the ground, and that they were able to get right up to it. And they threw a rock at it, and it bounced back, and something fell off the craft. And what fell off the craft, they recovered it. That is essentially the first-hand encounter that they had. And that is what made this person, who I'm going to refer to as Axelrod. You guys know that Axelrod is a famous nickname within the UFO community. The first time it appeared was on Ingo Swann's Penetration book. And then it appeared also on George Knapp's Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. So now I decided to name this person the Civilian Axelrod, because contrary to what Ivan Hannel said on that UFO podcast, this person is not going to come forward with any interviews or anything, because he feels like he was played by both AARO and SSCI. And after that interview between Ivan Hannel and Andy from that UFO podcast, I did hear that there was already an interview set up for this guy. And the interview, I don't think is going to come out, because as it tends to happen, there's only so much that this person wanted to share. And the ones who were trying to get the interview wanted more from him, because it's only natural that whenever you're trying to report on something, if you don't have evidence, if you don't have footage, if you don't have convincing testimony, corroborating evidence, communications between people who are important within the case, if you don't have any of that, it makes it really, really difficult to come forward with a story. Because if you don't have any corroborating evidence that supports the story, it just becomes one more story. And what we're trying to do here is to try and get convincing testimony. So this person decided that they didn't want to come forward in an interview. They didn't want to show their face. They didn't want to become public because they feel like they were played by the Senate and by AARO. However, this person is coming out with a statement, and I got a hold of that statement, and I got to talk to this person. My buddy Craig Oliver is going to come out also with an article, and he has some of the screenshots of these communications, and we satisfied our curiosity. We realized that this man was communicating with people within the government, and it's a long ass communication. They communicated for about 2 years, and we saw enough to convince ourselves that this did happen. This man did communicate with them, and this man got into a SCIF to speak to the Senate. He presented the evidence, and you guys know what happens when you go to a SCIF. If you go to a SCIF and you show evidence there, automatically that evidence becomes classified. So this person confirmed to us that there is video evidence up close, but the problem is that he presented it in the SCIF and he cannot show the evidence because there is a danger that if it's classified, he can go to jail. Also, this person does not think that what he saw was an alien craft of any kind or NHI of any kind. He saw something that was anomalous because this object was like 40 feet long. It was hovering above the fields and it was making a humming sound, and it was triangular. And he described it as, get this, like a Klingon ship, which is exactly the same thing that Tim Phillips described. And when he realized that the Senate was playing him, he went to Congress and he started speaking to someone. That someone also made statements about him and also called him a contractor mistakenly, because as you guys saw, Ivan Hannel confirmed that this man is not a contractor. He's a civilian, the very first civilian that gets into a SCIF with firsthand testimony of an encounter with something that he thinks is man-made. I don't know about that. Those are the claims, but I am going to show you the statement from him. The way that we did it was that, and we agreed on this, I have his permission. He gave me first written statement, and then I asked him if it was possible for him to record his voice so I could clone it. Now I do have permission from this person. So he said yes. So he gave me a sample of his recorded voice. I recorded it. The name, he mentions David Grush. The AI that did this voice does not pronounce David Grush's name correctly, but the rest of the message is pronounced correctly. And I am going to play it to you. And I added a few images of this encounter. So here is the Civilian Axelrod with a statement to explain the reason he's not coming forward and what he expects from this statement. The reaction from this is going to tell us whether he's going to come forward eventually or not. But I don't think he's going to go public, because I do understand why he's not showing his face. He's going to explain it to you here. He's afraid, and he thinks that the Senate and Congress are compromised. These are serious accusations. He also accused AARO of some serious things. And I completely understand because I've been seeing other first-handers, like, for example, Jake Barber, Michael Herrera, and others that don't want to testify because they don't feel protected. They feel like the Senate is compromised. We saw Ross Coulthart also calling out the Senate. And sadly, Congress hasn't done a lot of great work either. It's difficult to trust them. Burleson went on a Japanese show. He talked about this contractor. I don't know if you guys remember that one. And he was also on Tim Pool talking about this witness that believed that Lockheed Martin had a first, second, and third generation Tic-Tac. That's not exactly what this guy mentions. He does think that it's man-made, but I don't think he mentioned Lockheed Martin at all. And that's where it gets tricky because this is what got him really upset, because there's a lot of what he's been trying to convey to both the Senate, Congress, and also AARO that has been manipulated and hasn't been told as he wanted it to. And this is something that keeps happening with witnesses. They want to tell their story, and whoever gets to tell it wants to tell an entirely different story. So what I'm doing and what Craig is doing is that we're telling the story that this person wants to tell. And these are his claims. I'm not claiming that this is Lockheed's. I'm not claiming that ARBs are real, although there is a lot of smoke. This person believes that ARBs might be real, or that we had some kind of a breakthrough as humanity with propulsion, and he thinks that that is what he saw. So I know that there's a raging debate right now between people that think that these UFOs are completely NHI, and there's a bunch of people that think that some of them are ARVs. I don't know where I stand, but I think that both sides need to be reported. And I think that the people within the disclosure movement that are vehemently denying this, that ARVs are a thing, I think that some of them may be just saying that because they're protecting national security. That this is my personal opinion about that. Frankly, I don't know what's real and what's not, but I do think that this person is true. I did prove that he did have communication with people from the Senate and people from AARO and people from Congress. I saw the receipts. And some of those receipts are going to be posted by my friend Craig Oliver on his Escape Velocity Medium account. You can expect that. I'm going to link it in the description. But let's see what the Civilian Axelrod has to say in this full statement. So here it is.
Statement regarding UAP, government interaction, and recommendations. First, background and unique position. A small number of people in the UAP field may know me, but most do not. My father and I were, to my knowledge, the first and only non-military, non-contractor individuals to brief senators and staff inside both the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence SSCI SCIF and the AARO SCIF. SSCI staff could not recall any prior occasion when someone without a security clearance had been admitted to SCIF 219 to give such a briefing. Over the course of 2 years, we participated in multiple SCIF meetings, including an emergency session related to the Langley Air Force Base drone incursion. We were invited because we had what they called the goods, photos and videos of black triangles, physical material, and technology. We entered as a business seeking a deal for our portfolio. As Tim Phillips stated, the SSCI chairman even considered sending him to Area 51 in search of comparable technology. We located technology with so-called physics-defying characteristics, though we never found aliens or non-human intelligence, NHI. The reason the Senate's UAP focus has been on drones rather than aliens, unlike the House, is largely due to information we provided, including data links. Second, initial government engagement. This began when we attempted to sell directly to military branches. Among other things, we informed them we had defeated stealth, including jamming and spoofing countermeasures, rendering trillions of dollars in taxpayer-funded assets, including some not yet built, obsolete. This got their attention, especially when we provided evidence. We were investigated by AFOSI, NCIS, the IG of Naval Intelligence Activity, Cyber Command, and others. We cooperated fully, including interviews and polygraphs. Due to jurisdictional overlaps, I ended up meeting with top FBI agents and DOJ representatives. The FBI accused me of blackmailing the U.S. government. The DOJ, however, cleared me, affirming my right to sell legally obtained technology. The DoD also stated that the UAP/Tic-Tac technology was not their property. Third, SSCI involvement and fallout. Poor treatment from government agencies led me to complain to SSCI. Upon hearing UAP and seeing that I had cleared investigations, they invited me to brief them in the SCIF, assuring me this would take the heat off and protect me from the Invention Secrecy Act. I was told it would end in a deal. This turned out to be false. According to Tim Phillips, SSCI staff began seeking ways to remove me after obtaining the information they wanted. My promised whistleblower protections were revoked, enabling accusations of extortion, which were unfounded. Phillips publicly revealed I had physical materials despite knowing about credible threats from foreign actors, including a death threat from China verified by OSI. This exposed me and my family to serious danger. I have received no apology or retraction from SSCI or AARO, and I advise others not to approach them. Fourth, House engagement. After concluding, SSCI members, including Senators Rounds, Cotton, Warner, Moran, and Gillibrand, acted in bad faith, I approached the House. For 2 years, I provided briefings on drone threats, including how the Chinese executed the Langley Air Force Base incursion without detection or interception. Despite this, the House focused on unverified NHI and alien claims, holding hearings without requiring proof. This shift has damaged the credibility of the UAP discussion. Fifth, recommendations for credibility. The UAP community and Congress must change course if they want to be taken seriously. Require government-level polygraph testing for anyone providing testimony, including whistleblowers, journalists, and self-proclaimed experts. Avoid sensational, unprovable claims about NHI or alien encounters. Reset all public statements to 0 and rebuild with verifiable polygraphed evidence. Apply the same standards to well-known figures like David Grouch or Bob Lazar without public shaming for failure, but with transparency. Subject expert witnesses to the same rigor, including GPS timestamp data and monitored experiments. Without these measures, the next hearing risks being the last credible opportunity for decades. Sixth, my position. I am willing to provide SSCI and AARO the same GPS coordinates, date, and timestamp I gave previously, documenting a UAP I observed hovering less than 50 feet away for 10 minutes, along with a witness willing to take a polygraph. While some in the field are telling the truth, I believe the majority are liars, charlatans, or mistaken. Talk is cheap. It's time to put up or shut up.
It's time to put up or shut up. So that's the statement from the Civilian Axelrod, who will remain anonymous and who did record an interview in an outlet that is not going to come out because they didn't agree for it to come out. They just couldn't, even though they recorded. And he's making some serious accusations. He also claimed that the Langley Air Force Base incursions are from China, which is a wild claim. And it reminds me of Livelsberger, the dude who took his own life right outside of Trump Tower. So I don't know what you guys think about that. These are the claims. This is the statement from Ivan Hannel's client, who is an alleged first-hand witness who is a civilian, not a contractor, who is not happy because he feel like he was played and deceived, and there were severe accusations leveled against him, although he was cleared from those accusations, according to him. Depending on the reaction to this news and to his statement, he's either gonna come out on an interview with us, only audio, or not. This guy doesn't really care about NHI or aliens. He cares about what he saw, and he wanted to get something out of what he encountered because he grabbed something. He did present videos up close, but they were instantly classified because he presented them in a SCIF. I don't think we're going to see those videos. I asked multiple times, and I think that may be one of the reasons why the interview that was recorded is not coming forward and is not going to become public, because there is no smoking gun evidence in terms of video. The evidence that we saw were the interactions in email and DMs, and the names that we saw there convinced us that this guy was actually who he said he was, and that this guy did get into a SCIF. The thing is that the people that were talking about him were framing him as a contractor. They were accusing him of extortion, things that both he and Ivan Hannel deny vehemently. So this is one of the reasons why nobody wants to come forward, because there's a bunch of fuckery that goes on behind the scenes from the government, no less. It's not a surprise for me. I don't think it's a surprise for anyone, really. But let's see what comes out of this. This is one of the first-handers that was going to come forward and is not going to come forward anymore. I hope that the first-handers that Corbell is going to present, or anybody else are going to present. I think that Roderick Castle was going to come forward too with an interview. I hope that their testimony is taken more seriously than this guy's testimony. And I hope that these people are not having to deal with AARO or the Senate like that, and that they're being treated well. Because it seems to me that whenever somebody wants to come forward and wants to talk about man-made tech that may or may not be reverse engineered, there's always something that happens. And I suspect that that's not an accident. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, because this is a big one. I want to thank the Civilian Axelrod and attorney Ivan Hannel for trusting me with this statement. I'm not making the claims. I'm just reporting on it. I thought it was important. I was satisfied with what I saw enough to report on it and make this video. I'm going to link Craig Oliver's article in the description, where there are some of these screen grabs where you guys are going to get to see these interactions. And let's see how it goes. If people respond well and this guy doesn't feel like he's ostracized, he's going to be a little bit more public, although still remain anonymous, because he fears for his life and he fears that he could go to jail also. But let's see. Let me know what you think about the full statement. And let me know what you think about Tim Phillips, his statements, Eric Burleson, his statements about this guy, about how he was framed as a contractor, which he's not. And let's see what happens. Thank you. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That's all you need to do in order to help us, and it is what helps us the most, so thank you. But if you want to support us in other ways, there's a few links down there you can choose from. You can become a member on YouTube, or you can support us through KGRA. Anything you choose to do is always appreciated, so thank you. And that's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive like the Civilian Axelrod. Always. Bye.